Hey guys, so today I got into a video call with a very good friend of mine. Her name is Veronica D'Rozario and she is an educational psychologist based in London, England. We've been friends for about 16 years. We first met when we were in college during the 2004-2005 period. We discussed how her work has changed and what adjustments have had to be made at work in order for them to continue offering and delivering their services to the people in their area. We discussed how she has had to make adjustments in her life, personal life, to do things like grocery shopping and all of that, and also discussed a whole bunch of other random things, as you do when it's two good friends talking. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to like the video, to share the video, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and to follow and like the Facebook page. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me a message or to leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you have any ideas for content, please let me know. Please send all your suggestions to me. I'll be very happy to go through them and to help make any of them happen for you, because as I mentioned before, these videos are being done for you guys. So I am very happy to show you guys what it is that you would like to see. Without further ado, here is the video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for continuing to watch and to support all of our videos that we have been putting out during this MCO period. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Hello!
Yay!
How are you?
I'm okay. It's really quiet in the morning on a Saturday, so I don't know if you can hear like the sound of birds. It's like it's only the animals that are currently.
I can hear it. It's very faint.
I met you when we both started Help College.
Yeah.
So I was 18 at the time, so you probably would have been 16, 17, just after A levels.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Did we meet in research methods class or?
I think Gen
But I
Psych
just always
101.
remember. You what? Sorry.
Gen Psych 101. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just remember like there was this really like chirpy, perky, cheery person. Like you were just so friendly and
Laugh too
I don't
loud.
know. You were as well. But like for me, it didn't scare me. I was just kind of curious and intrigued, and then we just somehow or other just clicked.
Yeah.
And then I know it was like really quick because I remember then going to your house and you making like pasta with chili padi and
I don't remember that at all. Okay.
and I think also I was just really curious about like we came from very different worlds in the sense that you went to international school and you know like I was always curious about like the Kechara house, and I remember we always used to have a lot of conversations about like religion and stuff. But then equally as well, we had some really good times with like our literary drama group sessions and
French.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Arr.
You know what? I still remember that one phrase that she hard taught me. Wait. J'ai mangé du chocolat parce que c'est très délicieux.
Oh yeah, I remember you used to say it all the time.
Je mange du chocolat à la maison quand je regarde la télévision. That's what I heard. That's literally all I remember.
Wait, is that something like chocolate and television?
Yeah, I love eating chocolate. I like eating chocolate while watching TV.
Oh my gosh, you're much better. I even forgot that I actually studied French beginners for a bit.
I still have my notebooks. I have my French
Me
notebook.
too. And that brown textbook.
Yes.
I feel so like I can't let it go, but sometimes I don't think I'll ever open those books anymore.
And I have my substance abuse textbooks and my substance abuse flashcards. I still have those.
Oh I can't even remember the flashcards, like what they look like.
It was for studying for the exams, like when we had to remember, like, you know, methamphetamines has this effect and you give it at this dosage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have all of those.
Yeah, but I always remember going to your house near KDU.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But then, were you only in Help for a year before you left?
Yeah, I was only there for
Wow, that's quite amazing to think about it, isn't it? Because in some ways, I only properly knew you for just under a year, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then you left.
Then I left.
Yeah.
Then we kept.
So did you leave in 2005, September?
Yes. And I left like in like super short notice. Do you remember? It was like
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think I came to visit you in 2006 in around that time? Because that's when I came to the UK, but you were in Warwick at the time.
Yeah, and then I came down to visit you in Middlesex.
Yeah.
And then I stayed at yours as well when I went for the job interview.
Oh gosh, yeah. But then when did you move to Turnpike Lane?
I moved 2008 after I graduated.
But then you were only there for a few months, isn't it? And then
a few months, because then the recession happened, right? And then our flat was possessed because the landlord hadn't paid for his mortgage. Then after
I think I remember, was it that summer you came back to KL, then you just never came back to the UK?
Yeah. So we were staying in Hornsey, and then we moved out like very short notice to Muswell Hill, and then from Muswell Hill, then like I was just gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really 16.
So when you left Muswell Hill, did you pack everything, or you just kind of left with a holiday bag, not realize you were not going to make it?
I left literally just with what I thought I was going to bring on holiday. That was it. I know.
And did you ever? What happened to everything that was left?
He had to pack it and send it back.
Oh my God.
I know. And to this day, which is like 11 years later, I still feel really bad, but you know.
So did you then break up from KL? Like,
yeah. I never went back.
And like when did you break up with him? Was it quite soon after you came back to KL, or did you try long distance?
I tried for about a month, and then we were talking about him transferring over to Singapore, and he was like totally against it. He did not want to move to Singapore, which he ended up doing in the end anyway.
So strange. Yeah.
So it, like maybe within a month or 2 months after I moved back, then that was it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, 16 years ago, Veron, since I met you.
No,
yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah.
I feel like you haven't aged.
I think I have.
Have you?
A lot more white hair, definitely. How are you?
I'm okay. Just trying to make sense of how it's been, and I don't know, it's like everyone's sort of getting tired of being in lockdown, but at the same time you almost feel numb to like the numbers of deaths that are increasing. Yeah, it was really strange because I was talking to my friends yesterday, and like initially when it first started, like even the sound of like 1,000 deaths makes you feel like quite fearful, and then when it passed 5,000, I think it almost becomes a shock. And then now that it's like almost reaching 30,000, so it's really weird because I love reading the news, but I find like, especially this last few weeks, it's kind of tricky. It's like you're not quite sure, do I read it because I'm going to get more anxious from reading it, or
I've actually completely stopped, because I stopped I think like 4 weeks ago, because Jason Mraz had a Instagram concert, right? And he made a point at the end of the concert, which I mean it struck a chord. He said that, yeah, like you mentioned, you know, reading the news causes all of this anxiety when all you really need to know is the number of new cases. So he said, just read the news for the number of new cases. If it's going up, then you know that it hasn't improved, and if it's going down, or if the number of new cases each day is not rising as quickly, then you know the situation is improving, and that's all you need to know. You don't need to know anything else, right? So I was like, well, actually that makes sense, because it was all the stuff that was causing anxiety. It was like, you know, people protesting, or like people like arguing with medical staff, and people being that was what was causing the anxiety. So I was like, I'll stop. So I don't know. I mean, I've been following it, you know, and but just not as like closely as I was at the beginning.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think for us as well, it's people are anticipating to go back to work, and I suppose because some other countries have relaxed their measures,
like us, Malaysia relaxed.
Yeah, when has it started already?
Not yet. So in 2 days' time it starts.
Oh, by the way, if you hear some galloping sounds, it's the cats.
It's fine.
I think they're playing catch with each other. So the mornings they're like the most active, because I suppose, I don't know, maybe they've had a good sleep, or Yeah, they've been quite, I don't know, they've been quite like active for the past few days, like chasing each other.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, so we start the relaxation of the MCO in 2 days. But some people are still a bit like iffy about it, hesitant, because
Yeah, but is it in phases or is it like the
so
whole
they're going to
lockdown?
they'll start releasing it in phases. So like only certain businesses can open. They're sort of relaxing the.
Oh,
No worries.
sorry. There's some jumping on the bed. Could you hear that?
I heard a thud.
Yeah. Sorry. But what's the first phase?
So like restaurants can open again, but they've got like very strict like rules to follow about like dining in, and like taxis can start operating again, but like passengers and taxi drivers have to wear masks. So they've got like a whole list of like things that like SOPs that people have to follow. But like on my end, I'm sort of like, well, it took us a while, to get used to the MCO. So it's gonna take us a while to get used to the new SOPs. So I'm gonna wait for a while before, like, when everything's kind of settled and people are used to it already.
And then that's true. Yeah, because there's like this whole controversy about do masks actually help or not, and obviously the UK. I mean, the government keeps on saying that evidence suggests that it doesn't quite impact on you protecting yourself, but it's more so if you're protecting others from you.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, surely that would help, isn't it? If you make it mandatory, then everyone has to wear a mask. Therefore, you're protecting others. So it's sort of like everyone's playing a responsible role.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than wearing masks to protect yourself.
I think it's a very cultural thing. I think, like, because over here we're so used to wearing masks even on a normal day, right? Like in places like China and India and Nepal, like we're all used to wearing masks. It's normal.
Yeah, I remember my friend, so she's currently trapped in Poland, but she said that well, actually that's where her hometown is, but she initially only planned to go back for Easter because she just had a child, I think, in November, so she thought she'll go see her mum, and then she's like, I was planning to come back to London, but I think it's just much better to stay in Poland. She's like, I'm trapped here, but she feels much more at ease because I think it's more strict. So like wearing masks was mandatory, and I think even if you go shopping, everyone has to wear gloves, but then if you don't have it, the supermarkets would provide it.
So I think that's one of the things, right, is that if you wear a mask, if both parties wear a mask, you protect one another. And at the same time, I also think that a part of the reason why people are saying don't wear masks is because there's a lack of availability. So I think it's actually, I think people should actually address the lack of availability as opposed to save it for frontliners. No, you should actually provide it for everyone, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, because that has been the justification from the UK government, but then you find like on Groupon people are selling masks. And it's not I think the types of masks that the frontline would need are, I think, like the N95s or something, where it's customized to fit the person. So it's not the same as those surgical masks where that I think only protects from like the splash of blood or things like that, but they're still selling it.
I actually watched a video like 3 or 4 days ago. It was done by, I think, Vox, and we were showing the difference between sneezing like without covering your face, sneezing with your hand over your mouth, sneezing with your elbow, or sneezing with a mask. And there's like a huge difference in how much is actually sprayed out, right? So how much like bodily fluid actually is like expelled, and then
exactly. Even I think, because I was thinking on a molecular level, surely we're breathing each other's carbon dioxide, right? Because even if we're not sneezing, we're like inhaling and exhaling the whole time. Then surely like you're constantly walking through streams of like molecules. So.
I don't know, I guess to each their own, but I mean, you can kind of see, for me personally, I mean, I'm not like medically educated to your degree, but
no, I'm not medically. I suppose anyone who's had done a PhD would be like, oh my god, what she's talking about. But I used to remember Miss Winnie. Our research methods. I never forgot how much of like OCD person she was. And so I used to remember where, you know, she used to carry like her own marker pens and the whiteboard eraser. And then I always remember when we had to step into her room for like quizzes. Do you remember? It felt so fresh. Like,
no, I never went in. I don't think I think that happened.
Maybe you left already for COVID. For Warwick. But I probably was in like the final year where we had research methods. So we would have to go in 4 people at a time, and then she would like ask us questions and we had to answer. But I always remember stepping into her office thinking, it smells so fresh, like it's so sterile. And I think I remember it was because she said that to think about all the molecules on like or I guess suppose like virus or bacteria on doorknobs, or even like doing activities to lie in a carpet. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
my prevailing memory of help was getting called into substance abuse, being accused of plagiarism for my yeah, you didn't know about that?
No. Wait, who was the lecturer?
I forgot her name. So she actually called me in and she accused me of plagiarizing my paper, which I'd written on poppies and poverty, like the opium crisis in Afghanistan. And she accused me because she had written like a 98% mark on it. And she said that it wasn't possible that for someone of our level at the time to have produced that paper. So I had to like prove to her that I'd actually studied it back in GIS and then I actually done like research on it for a long time for Model UN. And that's how I could actually write the paper. And that was only when she believed me and then she actually let me pass the paper, or I would have actually been kicked out for plagiarism. And it wasn't.
Oh my God.
So I was so like traumatized after that.
In that sense, it's quite, to some extent, I mean, it's a compliment to you, but it's also quite sad what she thinks about like her expectation of students.
Exactly. And I was like, I don't know if I should be flattered or insulted. Like, whatever. Just put it aside. Just get through the class first.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's strange because I actually remember doing substance abuse, but I cannot remember the lecturer or even picture her. For some reason, I only remember, did you ever have Paul, like this old Indian man?
No.
Yeah, so I think it probably would have been the year that you left already.
Yeah.
But did we go to the White House together? I mean, in Malaysia, not the main White House. Because it was this place in Kajang, isn't it? It was called the White House, where and then we met this. Yeah.
And we went with Kevin.
Yes, and Serena.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how they are, but for me, I think that was a defining moment. I suppose because for you, you've always done a lot of traveling through your UN work as well, and the exposure you had from going to GIS versus me, it's like, I suppose I've only ever done charity through church, and it's mainly been, but it's still very close. I think it's mostly like refugees or, you know, old folks home or poor people. So the HIV, like, that's one of the visits as well I never forgot.
Yeah.
Which was, and I do sometimes wonder how that, how the guy who took us around is, or whether he's still around. Because he did tell us he was HIV positive, right?
He did.
Yeah. So
that was quite an eye-opening visit.
Yeah. And also because, this is a confession, like, I'm so obsessed with Drag Race. So there is this.
Put your face in your
Oh my gosh. I love that. Like, there are a few of us.
RuPaul.
Yeah, there are 4 of my friends who do not judge me because we like religiously watch it. We've even had like we've gone to each other's homes to watch. This was when the UK Drag Race came out.
Right.
So my flatmate as well, oh my gosh, she loves RuPaul. So at least I know I'm not alone. And
Rumshi loved RuPaul. And if you like drag and you like talented drag, drag, right? You should watch. Later on, go to YouTube and look for Sylvester. He is so good. I think it was in the 70s, and he did so much music, so much disco music, and it's all so good. He's so talented.
Oh wow! And I think that for some of my friends, like, oh my gosh, why do you watch drag? But for me, it's just the sheer amount of talent they have, because you have to be able to sew, you have to be quick-witted, you have to, you know, like the library is open, like you have to, I cannot
have facial expressions, and then like being completely immersed in this.
Yeah, it's like a triple threat in a way, but you just have to be quick as well. So that involves a lot of it's like you have to have a certain amount of intelligence really to have humor, like things. I think that's why I'm like so attracted to art, like to the art of it.
And there's also this like additional element of like you know that a person who does it had to struggle extra hard in order to make it, right?
Yes, and I think that's the thing. Exactly. So it's just the fact that these are people who in some ways are on a daily basis always fighting society's perception. So like, did you watch UK Drag Race?
No. I only watched earlier seasons of Drag Race, like the very first ones, like with RuPaul in the States, because we actually used to watch it with Rinpoche. So Rinpoche would actually put it on YouTube and then watch it with us, and then Rinpoche would teach us how to like it's not that Rinpoche was fascinated with drag per se. It was that Rinpoche wanted to teach us how to like observe people's talent and appreciate talent for what it is in whatever form it comes in, right? So like there was like a wide range of things that Rinpoche showed us. There's another drag performer. Her name was Divine. Okay. Okay, so Google her. She is so ugly, so ugly, but so funny. Understand. Oh, hold on, I'm so sorry. My
Siri, is it?
No, not Siri. Google Assistant.
Oh.
But yeah, Divine is like just she's not pretty, like conventionally pretty, but so funny, and the humor that she has is the like disgusting humor. It's like send you poop in a box, and then she'd be like, "Oh, the humanity," you know, things like that, and it's just it was really good. So yeah, Google later, right? Sylvester and Divine.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, before it. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm supposed to dog sit someone's puppy. Give me a minute. Okay, so this is her.
Oh my god, so
cute. Hi, Sophie. Her name is Zopa. She's a toy poodle.
Oh, can I take a photo?
Of course.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
Sophie, look, who's that?
Hello. How old is she?
9 years old.
Wow. She does not look. Oh my gosh, so that's her actual size. Like, she'll never grow bigger than that.
Never bigger than this. She's got
oh my gosh.
Problems. So I have to carry her like this.
Oh.
Sophie, who's that?
How cute.
Sophie, say hi.
I'm trying to understand the layout of your room. So when you show me the picture of your bike next to the bed, like where is your bed relative to?
Okay, so the door's here.
And
then there's a cupboard.
Yeah.
And then the window is like opposite to the door, like
the door.
Opposite end, right?
Oh, so your bike is in front on your left.
Right now, my bike's on my left.
Yeah.
Right next to my bed. Parallel to my bed. And it's honestly been tremendous having it like literally right next to my bed.
Wow. Just roll out of bed and climb onto the bed.
I got my alarm rang at 7:45 yesterday, and by 8 a.m. I was already on the bike. And then so I did the workout, and then after that I like got on with the rest of my day. It was like so easy.
Is the eating of lettuce linked to that?
Yeah.
Are you grazing on lettuce?
No, it was actually the leftovers of my lunch. We had burgers today, so just the leftovers.
I was like, wow, that's all you're eating? Like you're in a lettuce diet?
I have cut down. I'm watching what I eat now, like properly, you know.
Yeah.
But the lettuce was just the leftover salad from lunchtime.
But your family, when you grew up, because even when we were both at HELP, I always thought you were quite good with, like, as in you didn't really eat meat that much to begin with. So I just wondered whether it was something in your family that always had more vegetarian stuff, or
I really like chicken. Like the two, it was chicken and pork really for us, and then seafood, right? So when we were at help, I mean, it's not really like, oh, every day you can eat prawn or fish or whatever. So just generally, but I really, really like chicken, fried chicken especially. Like to this day, I've been vegetarian for 10 years, and I've been vegan since October, right? And I can tell you up until now, I still miss chicken, and I still miss prawn, and I still miss bacon and everything.
Yeah, but that definitely takes, I think that's why I'm in awe of, I sometimes feel like I really lack discipline at all, because I don't really abstain from anything. And I think the biggest difficulty I'm finding at the moment is just really getting myself to exercise. And my flatmate's been really good. Like I think because of this whole lockdown, we've all really put on weight. And then she was like, oh my God, I put on 6 kilos. I can't believe it. So she's been doing Insanity every morning.
Wait, 6 kilos in the last month and a bit? Wow.
That's what she said, yeah. So I think that freaked her out. Yeah. And so she's been doing Insanity. I think she's been doing it for a week now.
Right.
Plus. And I'm like, I really need to do that. Like I feel when I wake up. So it's just trying to really push myself to do something.
Well, what I found when I first started in January, actually I wrote about this recently. When I first started in January, it was struggle because I hadn't actually exercised regularly since we were in help. When I first moved into our apartment, there was a swimming pool. That was literally the last time I was exercising, So, and I was thinking like, okay, it's going to be a pain because everything wobbles where it's not supposed to. I walk and I get out of breath and everything. And so what really helped was actually exercising with someone. So I wasn't exercising because I hate the gym. The only thing you'll get me doing is running on the treadmill. I won't do anything else, right? So like I opted not to exercise in the gym. So I opted for badminton actually, because that's something that I know I can do from before. I purposely picked to play badminton with someone who is encouraging. So like no matter like how like and like I really don't want to do this, this person will always be encouraging and positive about it, and then like we would kind of support each other to do it. And then I found a couple of friends, like I'm not kidding you, like every time something small happens, like, oh, I managed to play for 30 minutes straight without like collapsing or whatever, like this person will be like, oh yay, congratulations, and it's like, oh well, I'll do it again and I'll do it again. So maybe it might help for you, like finding something that like dance, for example, like getting back into dance.
I think that's the thing. I feel like I'm sort of caught in this. See, the thing is, when I talk about these things, I almost feel like angry at myself because I feel like there's a lot of self-pity. But in terms of how I feel, I think I've gotten to a point where I'm so overweight that it's a whole mix of emotions where there's like guilt, shame, and embarrassment to some extent. And I think it links back to being younger. It's like I've only ever been judged by my weight because I was always like the chubbier one in, it's like every time growing up, I was like, oh, she's the younger one, but she's so chubby. And or like, oh, that's the older sister. Oh, but you're bigger. Oh, this girl's bigger. She likes very meaty. So I think I obsessed too much about my weight, so much so that it like haunts me all the time. So it's sort of like I want to exercise because I know that I want to be healthy, but then I have this part of me that sometimes has a bit of resentment. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it because, I was forced to like eat only 2 tablespoons of rice the whole time. I mean, I guess you saw me during health days, maybe because I was also doing a lot more exercise then, so I didn't realize it. But
now that I'm older and like I can sort of look back on the impact of certain things that we did in childhood, I see other like parents sort of like perpetuating in their kids. Like I understand from experience how damaging even what seems like innocent comments can be. Like things like, oh wow, life has been really good, huh? And then you don't realize over the years that like, oh, it actually has an impact on you. And it actually
becomes ingrained, isn't it?
It actually took, so then it went to the other extreme where it was like, well, whatever, you can say whatever you want, I'm going to eat whatever you want, right? And then it sort of moved over to like, oh, hang on, I'm getting older, that's the reality. And it shouldn't be that I'm 33 and having trouble walking up a hill. Okay, that's not normal,
Yeah.
right? So like I was like, okay, you know what? I gotta rethink this if I want to be around when Rimshi comes back. Rimshi comes back, I'll be like 38, 39, and this child will be like 5 or 6 years old, and he's going to be active, right?
Yeah.
I cannot. It cannot be a case of like I need to chase after the kid, and I'm like, you know, there's that reality as well.
It's sort of like you're battling with the mature side of you that's logical and rational versus the inner child that's like got all these like angst up emotions, you know.
Right? Yeah. So then I actually had it actually took somewhat like rethinking it, like, no, I'm not doing this because I want to lose weight. Actually, I'm doing this so that it's as simple as I don't want to be out of breath, right? I don't want to be out of breath doing like the smallest movements. And I tell you, it was, I'm not even kidding, it was really uncomfortable at the beginning because it was like, oh, I don't really want to wear shorts, you know, like why are people looking? Oh, they're looking at laughing at me.
It's like all those negative thoughts, isn't it? That like there's so many, I guess for me it would be consider like I have so many excuses, but actually they're just negative thoughts to put myself self-sabotaging in a sense.
And the thing was like, I've always said I don't like working out with other people. But you know, when you play badminton, there are other courts there. And so there's other people there, right? Like, these guys are like playing for 2 hours straight and they're so fit and they're not taking a break. And then they turn and they look at me and I'm like, oh, man, you know, I'm like, there's no flexibility, everything. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing it. It took a lot, like just to refocus my attention. So it's no, I don't care what they think. I don't care what they perceive or what they judge. It's I'm doing this for this reason. It's refocusing, and be very sure of your target.
I just really need to get into that mindset. What time is it over there?
3:45.
Oh, your Saturday's quite busy.
Same every day. Not much difference.
So does that mean that will you be opening Kechara House?
No. So the MCO loosening doesn't allow for religious activities to resume.
I don't know how many people are aware, in the sense that I think life is never really going to be the same again. It's just more so what the new normal is going to be. Because clearly coronavirus hasn't been wiped out, but it's like, how do we live
with it?
Have
things changed a lot for you?
I think what's changed is the fact that everyone's needing to figure out how we're going to what's our new ways of working, what's the practice going to be like. I mean, particularly for my job where it involves a lot of face-to-face. So for example, one of the main things is visiting families.
Before you continue, can you explain actually what it is that you do?
So I'm an educational psychologist, and in the UK there are about 3,000 plus of us, where we mostly work for the local authority. So we are a link between the council and schools. And in our day-to-day job, we would have at least, well, it varies from borough to borough. So, I mean, I have about 6 schools, but some educational psychologists, or EPs for short, call ourselves EPs, we might have 10 schools. So we work from children from ages 2 up to 25. And the only reason why it's 25 is because in 2014, they increased the legislation for vulnerable young adults who are 18 to 25. And I think more specifically, those adolescents who are, with significant disabilities or special needs, or really, really vulnerable. By 18, you're not independent enough to be able to be moved to the adults services, so hence why it's not till 25. So it's not every child that we would deal with, but it's like those who would have an education and healthcare plan, which is like a legal document that ensures that at a child is being monitored and is known to the system. Yeah. So I mean, the work varies, but a lot of times I actually do lots of visits and travels to schools or homes where it's usually to discuss about a child of concern. But when you think about the child isn't the problem, it's the environment around it as well, because we all play a role. So a lot of my day-to-day work actually is consultation with staff members and parents.
Right.
And it's about really finding out and consulting them about what's going on, what are the strengths, what are the needs. So it's sort of trying to understand what the profile of the child is. But I mean, obviously what helps us as well is to observe the child in either the classroom or their home setting. And if we do any assessments, so we might meet the child for a few hours and have sort of like an assessment doesn't necessarily mean, it's like we're just testing their IQ or anything. We do a series of activities with them just to get their views, because in the UK it's very much about a parent and child's contribution. Actually, that is the priority versus what professionals deem is appropriate. I think with the current pandemic, it's been difficult because obviously we can't come into contact with them, but doing things online brings about a whole lot of ethical complications, I suppose, because if we do some assessments, there are conditions as well. So for example, needing the environment, so we call them standardized assessments. So if you do things that are out of a natural situation, it's no longer standardized. And then secondly, the UK is governed by the GDPR measures. So I think it's to do with like data confidentiality, how that data is being used. So if we are using Zoom, for example, which in the UK, Zoom has had not a very good rap, I suppose, in terms of other people that might be able to hack through, or
Privacy
maybe in terms of security and privacy, but also consent from parents and children, that they are being failed, or the potential that if we do meet with children, what if someone hacks into the system? And so it just brings out a whole lot of complications. But then at the same time, it's easy to assume that everyone has the internet, but actually there's so much deprivation around, and there are some families that may not have laptops or may not even know how to set up these sort of apps. So it's trying to find something that works for everyone, like a policy and procedure that considers all the risks involved, but also allows us to still have that contact with families and schools in the way that we can't do it usually. So that's been quite
still open for you to.
So schools in the UK are opened because children of key workers, so meaning workers who are essential to the country. So for example, medical staff, lorry drivers, people working in social care, so like critical workers, their children would need somewhere to continue education. So most schools are open. Some schools may have grouped together with other schools nearby. So for example, if just say there's only 12 pupils in this school, they might cluster together with another school who has maybe 10 other children, but then they also have to manage like the social distancing measures. But then at the same time, a lot of my work now also involves thinking about supporting schools with mental health, bereavement and loss, where family members might be affected, but also in terms of the anxiety that currently goes on, because the work that we do is not just supporting their education, it's also their social and emotional development.
Right.
But not just the children as well, because there are some families where they might have other risks, for example, where parents don't feel necessarily able enough to cope with having their kids at home. They might have mental difficulties themselves, not in a sense that in the UK, when we say mental health, our understanding of mental health is everyone has mental health. So for example, if you think about, when you talk about how healthy you are, you talk about your physical health. So just as your physical health is important, your mental health is equally important. So some of us, would have our mental health sort of goes like peaks and troughs, because some days you feel really good, some days you feel really bad. You might go through a sense of depression. So some parents might be finding the situation too difficult to cope. So much of the work is sort of thinking how we can support parents at home?
I actually have two questions for you. One is during this time, do you have some idea of what is being done to support children who are at risk? And also, like, when you work with these kids, do you work with them over a period, like a long period of time? So let's say from like 2 years old all the way up to like till they're 25, or do you work with, like, once you've like sort of like sorted out a health plan for one child, then you move on to the next one? Like, do you stay with one case throughout the entirety of their treatment, or do you like move?
To be honest, for professionals, it can be tricky because it depends which schools you're allocated to. So the children that you're involved in really depends on how long you are working with that school.
Right.
But in terms of the UK, there is a legislation that ensures that every child who is at risk, whether it's, just say, for example, you might just have dyslexia, but then generally you are able to manage within school, you would still be known in the system, in a sense that every school monitors children who have any form of difficulties, I suppose. So in a sense, the children are always known to the school staff in general.
Yep.
But because we are a specialist service, it's only when schools feel like they've considered all different strategies, they've tried to implement things, and it's not working, and they might consult additional professional help. So that's when we come in. And usually if a child has now been known to our services, or for example speech and language occupational therapy, then chances are that child will be known to the service for the entirety until they're 25, because once they are referred to as, they're already on the system. So for example, if a child's in my school and then moves to a secondary school that has another EP,
right,
then I would make sure that that information is transferred. Yeah, but ideally we
known to the system, but not necessarily allocated to one EP for the entirety of their.
Yeah. I think usually we go on the basis of what schools ask us and the support that they need, but also we ensure that when we look at the school's data as well, we look at how referrals are made, we look at what the need is in the school, and then we try to work more systemically as well, because I think sometimes it's about using resources to your best ability. So for example, if you're having lots of referrals of children who have writing difficulties, then we'll have a look and say, look, let's see what's going on. What's the intervention that's currently in place? Instead of using all that time to just work with each individual child, we might then form like an intervention group that focuses on being able to cater to more children. Also, for example, we might notice in schools where there are more referrals of difficult behavior in the classroom, and then we sort of have to look at it as, why is this happening? Is there something that's occurring in school that's maybe impacting on this, or is it because it's the child's problem, which usually sometimes could be the case, but at other times I think it's always an interaction of many things. Yeah, but then once a child has an education and healthcare plan, which that in itself takes a long process to get onto, then they will always have to be reviewed every year. So every year there's an annual review for the child. So if you have an EHC plan, that means your needs must be really significant. Yeah, so they will review every year what the outcomes are. So like, for instance, what the child is working towards to. But then equally, if a child's needs might change, and then maybe they might feel that this child is not really needing an EHC plan anymore, they can then, take it away. But usually I think most children who have these plans have like really significant needs, so it's likely that they will continue to need it till they're 25.
Do you generally work with children who have, challenges like, dyslexia or whatever? Or do you also work with kids who are like from, let's say, an abusive environment? So when it comes to, let's say, children who are in an abusive environment or a neglectful environment, does it fall under your purview, or does it go to another sort of department?
Yeah, I think in the UK, what's really good is that there's so many different departments as well. We work with a range of children, but essentially, for example, if a child is known to have risk factors in the family, even before a child is born and a mum is pregnant, they might be known to social care already. And I think there tends to be quite a negative view about social care, that they might take away children, but it's not the case. I think social care is usually there when they feel that there are quite a lot of risk factors in your life. So, for example, in the borough that I work in, there are a range of factors that families might experience. So, substance abuse in the family, domestic violence, a history of mental difficulties. So, in that sense, even when a child is already conceived and the mom is pregnant, there's already support being there to make sure that the family are able to cope with bringing the child to the world. And then once a child is born, you immediately have all these tests in hospital, and then you have a health visitor. So that's like the second type of service, where a health visitor is pretty much, I think I'm not sure if they're qualified nurses, but they will monitor the child. So they might do home visits, and the health visitor works with families until the child is 2 years old. So if a child has significant needs, so for example, like cerebral palsy or SEN needs, then they might say, oh, maybe let's have educational psychologists involved, but then there might be speech and language and occupational therapy as well. So they will be, I think, at every stage of a child's life, there are all these services in place to meet the needs based on what the criteria is. But I mean, we do also work with children who come from very difficult families, but I think the point to which we come in is when they are not coping well in school, because we support children's mental health difficulties, but if it's very significant and it is a very high threshold, then there's also CAMHS, which is called the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services.
Mm-hmm.
So they deal specifically with children who are like self-harming, have like real behavioral difficulties at home. So a lot of times I think then those professionals would work with the parents and children. But I think oftentimes, because there's such a high need, and I think there's more need than there are professionals for CAMHS, a lot of times I think EPs are the link where we try to get that initial intervention in school. So I do work a lot with a lot of families who are known to social care, but the child are quite able, but it's only that their education is impacted as a result of the emotional barriers. So for example, if they are always maybe being disruptive in class, and it's not necessarily that we don't use the word naughty here, because we always feel that a child's behavior communicates something. What could be that communication? Is it because a child needs more attention? A child is witnessing, domestic violence at home, that they are too stressed to even be able to settle to learn. So we need to consider all these factors. And so in a sense, we do have alternative provisions here as well, which are smaller settings for children who have social and emotional behavioral difficulties, but they can't manage within a mainstream school. And I think that's why it's hard to narrow down exactly what our role is, because it can be everything and anything. Really, you might even have a child who has autism, also has behavioral difficulties. You might have a child who has dyslexia, but then also might have selective mutism, or might also have anxiety. So it really depends on each child and their need, really, and then also considering the circumstances around them.
Well, what you said earlier actually brought back something that I watched a while ago. It was talking about something similar, a similar kind of support system in Singapore, and it was a CNA sort of coverage on this. And what the head of the department said, which stood out, was that it's not the system's aim to separate the child from the parent. It's the system's aim to try and keep the child and parent together, and to see how to support that relationship, because nothing can actually replace that relationship.
And usually if it does get to that point, there are so many stages that happens before that, before getting to the end, because there'll be so many meetings, there'll be a lot of time trying to see what has been done, trying to support the family. All these measures will be put in place before any drastic measures are taken. So
like the department head actually said, just like what you said, right? There's this bad reputation. People have this misconception that child services are there to actually separate the parent from the child, but it's not the case. It's just that's like the last resort. And then even after that, attempts are made to actually have the reunification, like bring the child back together with the parent, right?
And I think more than often as well, where there are children who perhaps parents are not able to cope with them, actually a lot of times they are taken into care by their grandparents, or so it's always someone known to the family. So children where I have been involved with are not with their parents. It's usually because parents have really significant like drug abuse or mental health issues, and even during pregnancy may have consumed like alcohol, smoked weed, or taken drugs. A lot of them actually are then taken care by their grandparents, who then are awarded like a legal guardianship. So I'm not denying the fact that definitely there are children who, there are foster children, which in itself is quite a sad thing, because it's it happens, but they definitely try to prevent those measures. And where it does initially come across where parents are not able to take care of the child, usually it's always can nan or someone in the family, or even aunties, siblings maybe can take over that care. But I think that's mostly social care that would lead that. And it's not really in our remit. We just support the process of mainly how are they coping in school. Usually some parents are very proactive and they're like, oh, what can we do to support our child at home? And then usually if we feel that maybe there are certain things that are not within our remit, then we'll say, oh, let's make a referral to the mental health services, or let's make a referral. I think you need to see the physiotherapy. I think you need to have an assessment from the occupational therapist or the speech and language. Yeah. So it's a lot. There's quite a lot of elements of like multi-agency working as well. So
you've had to make quite a few adjustments to continue working at the moment, but like day-to-day life, like how has it changed? Like, can you still like go off to the shops to buy something? Like is it like not just once a week? Is it like self-imposed, or is it like government imposed? Like what was happening for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the UK, the lockdown measures include not having mass gatherings beyond 2 people. Doing only essential traveling. So, for example, like essential means
give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Oh, okay.
Where do you want to go? Scratching to try and get out. Go on.
Oh, that's it.
In the UK.
Where are you going? But I'm very lucky because literally within 2 minutes of my area there is Marks and Spencer's Food, and there's Tesco Express and Sainsbury's.
Wow.
The smaller ones, yeah. So and I also live by the river, so we're allowed in the UK to do exercise once a day as well. So our parks actually are not closed. I think what they do limit is using equipment in the parks, so they've like put red tape around all those like outdoor gym equipment or playgrounds.
Okay.
So you'll still see people like running about every day.
You go for like walks and things?
Yeah. I think sometimes you need it, especially if like I don't have a garden where I live.
Right.
We have like a courtyard, but I think you just need to sometimes just de-stress and take a walk, have a breather. So I try to go in the mornings where there are not many people around. And also I find like with shopping as well, mostly in the mornings it's quieter. The UK, it's getting better in a sense that they've imposed like the 2-meter distance. So even when you go to the grocery stores, people will line up and make sure that you're standing 2 meters apart, and then the guard will make sure that like there are not too many people in all at once.
Right.
Yeah, but then it's only those shops that are open, like everything else is shut, so it's not like you can decide to go shopping, so it's just to get like your essential. I think, to be honest, I feel like the biggest change is that I've saved so much. Like it just makes you realize how much you spend going to restaurants or pubs, or like socializing with friends, face to face. I suppose I'm sure in KL as well it would be the same. I'm sure people would have noticed.
No, like so in KL, right? Some people have said, on one hand they're saving money, but on the other hand they're spending it all online shopping.
That's what they were saying. Like Amazon apparently, I don't know whether this was worldwide or just localized to the UK, but Amazon was making £33 million an hour. And it's so true, because like almost every day you hear someone walking, because I think outside my door you can hear like the creaks, and you know that it's the delivery guy that's like delivering things. I mean, I admittedly have bought some things as well, so I will say like being in lockdown, I think has made a lot of people look more inward, like to ourselves, because most of the time, people can be just sort of running about trying to, you can't face yourself, so you go out and you distract yourself, you do many different things. But I feel like a lot of people have found new hobbies, and I found that I have been doing a lot of DIYs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean, obviously not elaborate ones. Like some people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna brew my own beer." No, I've my focus has been the cats. So I made like a cat food puzzle.
Oh, your puzzle toy.
Yeah, and then also I made another puzzle toy as well. And then yesterday I'm trying to build like a cat step, because I've been reading a lot about cats, and obviously like how your room is sort of adapted for Zopa. I've been trying to catify the flat as well.
Yeah.
So I've been using like the corrugated because Amazon, you get delivery. So what do you do with the boxes, right? So you cut them up. And then I was trying to make steps so that like they lead to my window pane, and they can look outside, because the cats are indoor cats. So basically their cat TV are just the two windows we have. One is facing the courtyard, another one facing the main road. And obviously cooking, so like I never thought I would try to make roti jala, so today is going to be
do you remember when you were still doing your BSc in Middlesex, and then I came to eat nasi lemak? Do you remember?
Yeah.
That was so long ago.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like more people are baking.
Yes,
I'm watching
bread.
more. Yeah, but it's so like yesterday with roti jala, you need flour. I couldn't find all plain flour.
Yeah, it's apparently sold out. Even in Malaysia, a lot of supermarkets, the things that are sold out is bread, UHT milk, and flour. They just a lot of people have taken up sourdough. I don't. It's like,
yes, no, that's so true, because there's a group of girlfriends and myself. So I recently got the cats, and then another girl has a cat. Another one, she's already booked a puppy, which she would be collecting in 8 weeks. And then another girlfriend said, "Look, guys, I've got my new pets as well." And then she like showed us a jar full of like her yeast that she was trying to grow. So, but I really I can't bake, so or rather I think I can't. So I always don't really venture into that part.
Yeah.
Apparently in the UK, the lockdown is, they're going to ease by the 26th of May or something. But again, this is only paper speculating. They've not announced it.
Do you think the UK is ready for that though? I mean,
I think they will only...
They haven't hit the peak yet.
But again, apparently we have reached the peak. That was what Boris said the other day, but...
What I was actually thinking was, the East Asian countries have taken such like restrictive, stringent measures fighting against COVID, and even after those are like sort of eased off, you still see a kind of like second wave or third wave, like a resurgence of cases, right? And like things are like so much, things appear to, or sound so much more relaxed in the UK. We'll just, I don't know. I wonder if it's gonna.
Even yesterday when we went grocery shopping, it felt like there were more people than usual out and about, because it's also quite sunny at the moment. So you know what it's like, right? When it's like it gets warmer and like the sun, everyone's like, ah. So I was like thinking to myself, wow, people are actually, technically they're not flouting the rules, because you can go out to shop for essential items, but you don't really know whether all these people are
what precautions they're taking.
Actually, so but then like, so in the UK, what they found is obviously there is such a COVID divide, as they call it, because in areas that, I think because they've now been collecting data in areas that are more deprived, there have been almost double the cases of deaths in those areas. And also in the UK, like they were saying that the BAME groups, so like Black and ethnic minorities, like dying almost 2/3 more than British people, even though, I mean, like if you think about proportion wise, where in general the whole population of UK, BAME only accounts for 14% of the population, but yet with deaths it's like about 34%. This was like 2 weeks ago when I read. So
affecting the
it's like,
different socioeconomic groups disproportionately.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's easy for people to assume that, oh, maybe it's genetically linked, but actually when you think about the socioeconomic standards and yeah, it just brings about like how inequality then also affects. So when I feel like, oh, this guy's a millionaire and he's like coming in with his thoughts, and then Elon Musk obviously, he was supporting these like two doctors who said, yeah, actually, in the US they should have like not put down this lockdown measures. I'm like, when you live a life of privilege and you don't need, yeah. So it's, I mean, okay, I'm not going to go into it, but it's just...
I mean, I've had this conversation, with other people about how people disproportionately...
But then also we were thinking, even if schools open, I don't think it's going to be easy, because what you're dealing with is a lot of families also who have lost family members and clearly have high levels of anxiety. Not every parent would want their child to return as well. Mm-hmm. And equally, if you still have to put in like social distancing measures, you can't have a class of 30.
Yeah.
You
children are not going to listen.
Exactly. So most people think it's likely that schools might reopen in June, but it may not be all of the years that are allowed to return. So maybe just those in final year, so like year 6s, the year 11s, where it's transition points where you're not going to see your friends because you're going to move to a new school or you're going to move on to college. So it might be they will have those in place because there are no exams in the UK. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. At this point, we're just sort of continuing with trying to work out how we're working from home. Right. So,
and for your place of work, are they anticipating that the lockdown will be prolonged? So are like measures being put in place in case you need to work from home beyond 26th of May, or
Right. I mean, the 26th of May hasn't been announced at all. It's just that I read it in the headlines this morning. But in terms of like work meetings, it's just been a discussion of what policies are we drafting out now as our new ways of working. So I think it's still very much, but also in anticipation of planning how we can support the mental health of staff and students when they do return, because I think kids will definitely be back by September, I'm sure. So, like the new academic year, so what is that going to look like? We don't know. Is it going to be a phased return, or are they going to skip like the summer holidays and like do the phased return? Then we just don't know as well. So we're just sort of working on a new policy of new ways of working, but equally we still have a policy of the old ways of working anyways, but it's just that now we have to be more, I suppose, creative with the alternatives.
Yeah, accomplish the same results, same goals, but in a different way.
Yeah, and I think that's been a positive, I suppose, because the councils at least has had to almost come up immediately. Like HR has been coming out with new policies, like to figure out now with like working on in the virtual world, what does that look like? What is possible, what isn't possible. So yeah, I mean, there are still a lot of groups, like all these mutual aid groups. There are a lot of people that are out there volunteering, like delivering food to vulnerable people in homes. Yeah. So there are a lot of these things going on which don't get enough mention, and there are still the critical workers who are working in the councils to make sure that families who are known to care and who are considered under the vulnerable risk are being seen to. So it's
one thing I've really enjoyed coming out of the UK though is like the things that people are doing to sort of support healthcare workers. So I've seen like a lot of like challenges online, like to support the NHS. So there was one called the 2.6 challenge or 26 challenge, the hashtag, and because the London Marathon was cancelled, so instead of running that, people would do like 26,000 steps in their back garden, or like they will cycle 26 miles or something, like like plank for 2.6 minutes or whatever it is, right? So, and then run 5, donate 5, nominate 5.
Yeah, it's been quite cute actually seeing like some of these. And I think a few days ago there was Postal Workers Day as well, because the postmen still have to work.
Yeah.
So there were these children that they had left treats at the door. So like, you know, those Haribo caterpillars in a bag. And then there was one house they showed on BBC Breakfast Show where you had to do the, what do you call those, like skip with on numbers, hopscotch. Yeah, so they had to do, the postman had to do a hopscotch to get to the door. And another one was like 3 days in a row the boys left like a tic-tac-toe cross and knots like a paper outside and said, oh, I'm circle, you are cross. So like asked the postman to fill it in every day. And then on Postal Workers they left like food outside. It's so cute.
And then there was that
Captain Tom.
Yeah. Like raising so much money.
Yeah. It's like incredible. I think out of this, one of the things that has come out of this has been the nice side of humanity, I think, you know, where every Thursdays at 8 o'clock there's always clapping going on for the NHS workers. So like I've been quite like teary-eyed and emotional, because even though you don't know all, you know, like here you generally don't really speak much to your neighbors, but then everyone coming out for a similar cause. And also the nice side of this part where you're caring for others, you know, a lot of the companies have offered like free meals to NHS workers, or, you know, all these mutual aid groups that have come about. So it's been quite a nice shift from the division that had come about from Brexit,
right,
to all of a sudden the country needing to just really work together. But yeah, let me know how the lockdown goes in KL and everything.
I will.
Yeah.
Oh, it was really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it was good to speak to you. In fact, I woke up early for you
Thank you
today.
so much. This was so much more stable than FaceTime. So much more stable than
FaceTime.
I'm surprised.
Zoom. Have you tried Microsoft Teams?
I have not.
Okay, but I guess, I mean, we're not talking about, everyone's like given me this traumatic thing about Zoom, like something really bad happened. So
I figure, you know, for like non-confidential whatever.
Yeah. Zoom's really easy to use.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I better go.
Yeah. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
No worries.